We have a short time together, so I'm just going to talk from the viewpoint of somebody that plays with a global claims provider. Some of this is Gary speak, some of this is Crawford speak, some of this is in between. All of it is very fresh, that's for sure. We've had a couple of major changes in my shop just literally in the last couple of weeks. As the insurance industry undergoes transformation and change, those that service the industry need to adapt to remain relevant. Change has impacted our market, the way consumers will and do behave, and the expectations of our current and future staff. And I want to focus on that because as much as we talked about the customer in the room next door, a lot of this impacts where I'm going to find the next employee and how I'm going to keep the employees I have right now. I don't know about the broker world. I know it's a struggle in the insurer markets. I know it's a struggle in my markets to engage young folks to come into our business. One of my favorite expressions was from the very first guy I worked for, and he said, no one was born with a burning desire to be an insurance adjuster. And after about the first week, I figured out why. But the reality is we all fall into it. I know that that's a pretty common expression in our business, but enticing young people is a big part of what our focus is when it comes to the disrupting technologies and platforms out there. A lot of this is about the kind of stuff that if I'm sitting at the boardroom at Crawford, the stuff we actually talk about, the stuff that I have to leave here today for a session with my people. And I had a 2-day one last week, and I was just talking to a buddy from CGMB. I was in a session for 2 days. I had to go do a talk in London. And it didn't occur to me, I was sitting there and I was listening to the others on the panel, and I'd spent 2 days and I never had uttered the word adjuster. And it was all product focused. So that's 2 days of my life that week, and I never, ever uttered that word. And I think that sort of gives you a sense of what's happening, at least to my side of the industry. So the things we talk about, how do we grow? How do we remain relevant? What will our people need to do or not to do? How do we continue to satisfy shareholders? How do we continue to engage our staff? And how do we adjust for disruption? So in those conversations, a number of things sort of pop up, and I'm going to try to get through some of this relatively quickly, as well as a little brief outline of what we think is going to happen in the claims world. Unless you've been asleep, the market has changed. We talked about next door peer-to-peer telematics, market amalgamation, and you're not an adjuster if you don't talk about severe weather. I just had a whole bunch of people sitting in a place called Fort McMurray doing things that if you had talked to me 20 years ago, I would have said, yeah, that's not going to happen. But just the sheer size and magnitude of some of the things we do as an organization all around the planet is rather remarkable. And I can tell you, in case anyone ever comes to you and says those things, you know what, all that change in weather, et cetera, that's a bunch of crap. The frequency that we see over the last 10 years has been remarkable. We have literally thousands of people on cat call because we have to. And the reality is they're far more mobile than they used to. I have a fairly large deployment right now in Australia. So the reality is severe weather still plays a big part in what I do.